Under the dim lights of the naval briefing room, silence was supposed to be a rule. Yet laughter broke out when she walked in. A single voice, a deep, mocking one, rose above the rest. "Hey, rookie, what rank you pretending to be today?" The question wasn't innocent. It was a taunt, dripping with arrogance and disbelief. The woman who stood in the doorway didn't flinch. She looked young, almost too young for the sharp eyes and calm stillness that followed. Her name was Ava Cross, and in a few moments, everyone in that room would regret ever underestimating her. Asterisk, asterisk, what city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more real stories about extraordinary people. Asterisk, Ava had joined the Navy right out of high school. A quiet girl from a coastal town where the waves were her only friends. Her father was a fisherman. Her mother, a nurse who taught her that real strength often hides behind gentleness. Ava didn't grow up dreaming of war or medals. She dreamed of courage, the kind that didn't shout, the kind that simply endured. When she enlisted, the jokes came fast. Her small frame, her soft voice, her calmness, none of it fit the image of a soldier, let alone someone in the Navy SEAL program. But she didn't sign up to prove anything to them. She signed up to prove something to herself. Her training was brutal. Every day she pushed through the mud, the freezing water, the ridicule. She learned to hold her breath longer than anyone else, to shoot straighter, to run farther. But still, when she entered the main division for deployment, most of the men saw her as a mascot, someone too fragile for the field. And the loudest of them all was Lieutenant Reed. Reed was everything Ava wasn't. Loud, tall, confident to the point of arrogance. He had served 2 tours, had scars that told stories, and eyes that had seen too much. To him, Ava was a mistaken uniform, a misprint, and he made sure she felt it. Every time she walked into the room, he had something to say. "Hey, Sergeant Sunshine," he'd sneer. "You sure you're not lost on your way to the med bay?" Ava ignored him. Every single time. Silence was her defense. But that silence only fed his cruelty. He needed a reaction needed her to break, to validate his disbelief. The unit was stationed at a classified base in the Pacific, preparing for a covert operation. Tensions were high. The mission required absolute precision, and everyone knew it. The night before deployment, the officers gathered for a final strategy session. Ava, newly assigned to the team, entered the war room quietly and took a seat near the back. That's when Reed's voice echoed across the table. "Hold up. Before we start, what's the new recruit's rank again?" The question drew smirks around the table. Ava kept her eyes on the mission map. Reed leaned forward, grinning. "Come on, Cross. Don't be shy. You're what, a private? Maybe a corporal? Enlighten us." The commanding officer, Captain Hawley, shot him a warning look. "Lieutenant, that's enough." But Reed pressed on. "No, sir. I think we all deserve to know who's tagging along on a mission this dangerous, especially if she's just another trainee with big dreams." The room went silent. Ava rose slowly. Her movements were deliberate, steady, controlled. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm, too calm. "You want to know my rank, Lieutenant?" Reed crossed his arms. "That's what I said." She reached into her jacket pocket and slid a small, sealed envelope across the table to Captain Hawley. The captain's eyes widened when he opened it. He stood immediately, posture straightening. Everyone, stand at attention. The sudden shift froze the room. Chairs scraped. Boots clicked. Reed looked around, confused. "What's going on?" Captain Hale's voice cut through the air. "You're addressing Commander Ava Cross, Direct Operations Lead for Task Force Red Dagger. Her clearance level is classified above yours, Lieutenant." The blood drained from Reed's face. For the first time, he couldn't find words. Ava looked at him, not with anger but with quiet pity. "You asked for my rank," she said softly. "Next time, ask for my record." The revelation rippled through the team like a silent explosion. Every soldier in the room suddenly realized that the woman they had mocked, ignored, or underestimated was not only their superior, but the one who'd been evaluating their readiness all along. But the story didn't end there. The next morning, the team boarded a transport to a classified island zone in the Pacific. The mission was to retrieve a hostage from a remote jungle outpost controlled by a rogue militia. It was the kind of mission that demanded silence, precision, and trust. Reed, humiliated from the night before, now had to take orders from the woman he'd ridiculed. The terrain was brutal. Rain poured nonstop, turning the ground into a trap of mud and roots. The team moved under cover of darkness, guided by Ava's calm voice over the comms. Every order she gave was sharp and efficient. No hesitation. No emotion. When enemy scouts appeared on the ridge, Ava didn't panic. She whispered coordinates, recalculated paths, and led them through the narrow river valley to avoid detection. Reed watched her with disbelief. She wasn't just good, she was exceptional. Then came the turning point. During extraction, one of the team's signal officers tripped a sensor. Alarms blared. Enemy forces swarmed. Gunfire cracked through the jungle. Reed, pinned behind a fallen tree, saw two soldiers cornered by advancing hostiles. He shouted for cover fire, but Ava was already moving. She sprinted across open ground, grabbed the wounded man, and dragged him into cover. Reed tried to stop her, but she ignored him, grabbing the second man by his vest and pulling him to safety. When the dust cleared, all three were alive. Back at the evac zone, Reed approached her, his voice low. "You could have been killed." Ava wiped the mud from her face. "So could they." He hesitated. "You didn't have to prove anything." She looked at him, then really looked at him. "I wasn't proving anything, Lieutenant. I was leading." That night, after extraction, Reed found her alone by the water, staring at the horizon. For the first time, he spoke without arrogance. "You were right," he said quietly. "About rank. It's not on the shoulder. It's in how you stand when everyone else falls apart." Ava smiled faintly. "That's something I learned a long time ago. My father once told me respect isn't given by title. It's earned by character." He nodded, the weight of his earlier mockery pressing on him like a storm. "I was wrong about you." "No," she replied. "You were wrong about what strength looks like." Months later, during another mission, the same team found themselves under siege in an abandoned harbor compound. Reed was injured this time, his arm bleeding heavily. Ava carried him through gunfire, refusing to leave him behind. By the time rescue arrived, he could barely speak. But when he did, his first words were simple. "Commander Cross saved my life." After recovery, he submitted a formal commendation personally, recommending her for the Navy's highest operational honor. But Ava refused it. When asked why, she said, "Recognition isn't the goal. The mission was." Her words spread quietly through the ranks. Soon, she became a legend, not because of medals or titles, but because she embodied something deeper. She led without shouting, commanded without ego, and taught through silence. Years later, when new recruits entered the SEAL program, instructors would mention her name. "If you want to know what leadership looks like," they'd say, "study Commander Ava Cross." And somewhere in the Pacific, on a quiet beach where the tide erased footprints as fast as it made them, a woman once mocked for her rank watched the sunrise in peace. She didn't need to be remembered. She had already left her mark on every heart that once doubted her. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.